This is a 2020 Marin Rift Zone Carbon 2, and if you're in the market for a short travel 29er trail bike with progressive geometry, then this might be the bike for you. In this video I'll go through all the details on the bike and give you some of my first ride impressions, observations after having this bike for a couple of weeks now. But first, if you're new around here, do me a favour and hit that red subscribe button down below. Right, let's crack on. So the Rift Zone Carbon 2 is a 29er bike, 29-inch wheels front and rear, and it's packing 125mm of rear wheel travel combined with 130 at the front. But what really sets this bike is the progressive geometry. This is a size large and the reach is a whopping 480mm. The head angle is 65.5 degrees and the seat tube angle is 76 degrees. So the geometry is a really interesting talking point on this bike. It's got the sort of numbers and angles you expect on a longer travel enduro bike, but combined with a short travel setup. So it should be a recipe for a lot of fun, but we'll find out in a bit when we go for a ride. The main talking point with this new bike is of course the carbon mainframe. The Rift Zone, as you might know, has been in the company's range for quite a few years, a short travel 29er, but for 2020 they brought out two carbon models, and this, the 2, is a top of range bike costing just under £4,000 here in the UK. It's a really nice looking carbon frame as well. I even like the paint job, and the day glow yellow decals I think look splendid on a gloomy day like today and really pop, give a bit of colour. It's a dinky tiny frame as well. It looks like a small jump bike really, but it gives you loads of standover clearance and the option to run a longer dropper post than the 150 provided due to the short seat tube length. And despite being a really small frame, there is space for a 500ml water bottle, as you can see demonstrated there. The details on the frame include a tapered head tube up front, an external threaded bottom bracket, which we do like around here, internal K-routing, which is very neatly done. You've got a bash guard on the bottom of the down tube to protect the carbon from rock strikes from the front wheel, and it's just a smart looking frame really. I think they've done a really good job. But why carbon at all? Well, you can save a bunch of weight for a start, half a kilogram easily, and you can also tune the stiffness and the compliance of the frame to deliver the ride quality you want from the frame compared to metal, which you can't tune as easily. And carbon is just a desirable material. Lots of people want carbon because it's carbon and it's exotic and desirable, and it looks swoopy in a way that aluminium doesn't. No ugly welds to ruin the beauty of this frame. So it's carbon up front, and then at the back it's aluminium, just like the regular Rift Zone, with aluminium seat stays and chain stays. It's a single pivot setup with the linkage on the seat stay rather than the horse link on the chain stay, and a small linkage driving the metric shock, which on this bike is a Fox DPX2 with the piggyback chamber and a 3-position compression adjustment. So you can plenty of adjustment and plenty of capability to adjust the shock using both the dial and the tokens you can add or remove to suit your requirements. As I mentioned earlier, this is a range topping model and it costs just under £4,000 here in the UK. And this model is well spec'd. It's not a lightweight spec, it's definitely a more durable burly spec, as you can see by the Maxxis Minion tyres with the new Exo Plus casing. So a beefy rugged tyre, give plenty of capability and plenty of grip in a mixed range of conditions. Then we have Fox providing the suspension with a 34 performance fork at the front. It's not a top of range fork, but you get the grip damper with an easy compression adjustment on the top, and you use the same volume tokens to adjust the progression of that spring rate inside. And then the DPX2, which I mentioned on the back. Then for transmission, it's a Shimano 12-speed setup, the brand new 12-speed with an SLX shifter and cassette and a Posh XT rear mech, giving a bit more showroom bling. For gearing, we have a 1051 cassette paired to a 32 tooth chainring on the FCA gradient crankset up front there. So finally a group set to match SRAM's Eagle offerings with EXO and GX and SX, which have been around for many years. So finally Shimano has caught up, and first impression on the group set, so very good. Got light shifting with the rapid fire shifters, nice crisp fast accurate shifting, and plenty of range for getting up and down hills. A few words on the finishing equipment, and we have a nice Marin branded well padded saddle atop an X-Fusion 150mm dropper, and instead of the X-Fusion remote lever they use a loam lever from PNW, which is a nice shape, big paddle to hit when you're in a rush to drop your saddle. And the handlebar is from Deity and it's 787mm wide, very precise, paired with a Marin branded 35mm stem. So short and wide, the sort of setup you expect on longer travel enduro bike, as we said about the geometry already. So interesting spec, an interesting bike, but how does it ride? Well, let's go for a spin and find out. My takeaway observation from riding this bike for the last couple of weeks is just how playful it is. On any sort of track, it's simply great fun. It turns even melody tracks into a skate electrics affair, ripping and roaring from corner to corner. Let's talk briefly about climbing abilities, because that is a vital requirement for a short travel trail bike like this one. It's fair to say it would be used for big epic cross-country marathon rides in the back and beyond, as well as playing around in the woods. On climbs, it pedals very efficiently. Even in open mode, there isn't too much movement from the rear suspension, there isn't too much unwanted bob. I find myself going for the compression dial and just firming up a little bit for longer, steadier climbs. The seat angle, while not the steepest in its class, puts you in a good climb position with weight over the bottom bracket, keeps the reach to the handlebars nice and compact, and you can chuck away up a climb very happily indeed. You won't win any hill climbs or KOMs. The high weight, about 31 pounds in this build, with pedals, and the quite draggy tyres means that it's not the fastest bike up the climbs, but it's not slow at all. That may sound like a contradiction, but it means compared to longer travel enduro bikes that weigh more, with similar geometry numbers to this bike, it's just a lot more sprightly and a lot more eager on climbs. Thankfully, there's ample mud clearance around the rear wheel and swing arm, because at this time of year, as you can see, my trails are very, very muddy. When it comes to all other trails, traversing and going down, that's really where the bike comes to life. The geometry gives you a great stance and weight balance on descent. The slack head angle, the short stem, the wide bars, the big grippy tyres, all combine to create a huge amount of confidence when you're dealing with rough, rowdy terrain with roots and rocks aplenty. The long wheelbase and low bottom bracket gives good stability in corners, and you can really make the most of the big wheels to carry speed into, through and out of corners. With very short chain stays, 425mm, and a short stem and wide bar that maintains an agile sense of purpose on twisty trails and turns direction very keenly. You can whip it from corner to apex. They really put a smile on your face as wide as these handlebars. That's a bit cheesy, I know, but you get what I mean. It's a fun bike. It's a fun bike, full of character, but it's a bike that you can pedal all day and you never feel out-biked like so many big travel enduro trail bikes, which are pretty intimidating. You have to be going at some speed to really unleash your full potential. There are sometimes occasions when you get yourself into a bit of trouble because the geometry eggs you on to push your bike harder than you might an otherwise conventionally set up short travel bike. But the suspension copes with it pretty well. You never find yourself alarmingly out of depth. A beefier fork up front perhaps would unlock a bit more potential, but then add a bit more weight and getting away from what this bike is all about really. There we go then, first ride impressions on the brand new 2020 Marin Rift Zone Carbon 2. A huge amount of fun, as I said earlier, just a barrel of laughs on my local trails. Everything combines extremely well. That geometry, big tyres, wide handlebar, short stem, just gives you loads of confidence to attack and not hold back on gnarly trails, rowdy trails with roots and rocks and other obstacles, and dealing with mud and slippery leaves that I have at this time of year. A few words on some of the components. Not a long-term test by any means. Shimano's new 1x12 group set works extremely well. They finally caught up with SRAM, and this is level pegging with SRAM's offering. Lovely, light, accurate shifts from the SX shifter, good range for that 1051 cassette, and a 32 tooth trailer on the front. Good for good up climbs, down descents, and nice gaps in between. My only negative so far are the Shimano brakes. They're 4-pot calipers, plenty of power, nice lever shape, but I'm getting slightly wandering bite point issues with the rear braking in particular, and not even on long descents where heat is an issue. Just find the bite point just moving unexpectedly when you're braking, which is not what you want. You want that consistent bite point. So that's a bit of an issue. I think a bit of an issue with Shimano brakes in general, and that is presenting itself on this bike, which is a shame, but as a small issue. Hopefully it might resolve itself, or something I can do to fix it. If you had similar problems with Shimano brakes, let me know in the comment section below, and if you managed to fix them, I'd love to hear from you. Drop post works a treat. That PNW lever is lovely to use. Wide handlebar, short stem. The grips are nice and grippy as you want. Tyres fantastic. Tyres I highlight. These are the sort of tyres I fit on this bike anyway, especially this time of year when it's really muddy and loose out. Okay, what else can I tell you? Well, I have made a few changes to the suspension. It's mostly easy to set up using the recommended settings for the Fox 34 from Fox themselves, and from Marin for the rear shock. I did find the rear shock a little bit too soft and going through a travel too quickly on not even that bigger impact, leading to quite a harsh bottom out. But Marin provide a bigger volume spacer, which I fitted and then added about 10 psi more, which has firmed up the rear suspension nicely, stopping the bottom outs from happening on medium to big impacts, and just giving a bit more support through the range of suspension travel. Not had to touch the fork. I went a little bit higher on the pressure, but so far it's been really good. So there's my observations on the new Marin Wrist Zone Carbon 2. There will be a more in-depth review coming up soon once I've logged enough time on the bike to really feel confident to deliver a verdict, a conclusion on this bike, and whether you should rush out and buy it or put it on your shortlist for 2020, and also test the durability of all the components across the board as well. If you've got any questions on this bike or my ride observations, do put them in the comment section below. Always love to hear from you, so type them down below. And while you're down there, maybe give me a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button as well so you don't miss any future videos from myself. Coming up in the next few weeks, I've got some exciting bikes to tell you, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. That's all for now. I'm going to go continue shredding, and I'll see you all again next time.